Alright guys, on the bench we have a Cobra 2000 GTL, and you're not going to find a nicer radio than this condition wise. It's not quite new old stock, but pretty close. Um, Shipped to me in its original box. um, Randall from Missouri, he's the original owner. If you'll remember, a couple of videos back, I did a CA72 mic, repaired that, so this goes with this radio. And so I revamped, on a side note here, I kind of revamped my work area. So it was not really, all my equipment was kind of spread out, and it was kind of difficult to read the senator from where the work area here is, and it was tough reading the signal generator. So I kind of just condensed everything into what I use the most, and like right in front of me, and then what I don't use kind of just put off to the sides. So yeah, it's just easier this way. So now everything is kind of condensed in eye view. I also took out my the Tram D80, and I put in my DX 2527 bass radio here. So that's my new monitor radio. And yeah, that's the 1040 on top of it. So I just figured whenever I need it, I'll just put it right there and use it. Upgraded my cables from the RG8X to the RG400. I was just getting tired of putting new ends, on like every couple of months. So I'm hoping this cable is going to last a little bit longer with these crimp style ends. So we'll see. I can always just get the slide-on connectors, but I feel like the less connectors you have on, the better. But anyway, yeah. So that's what's going on here. So everything is nicely condensed into eye view. But getting back to the radio, yeah. So this is a really nice looking radio. So this is just basic service. So my services is when you select a full service. So what does that entail? So it includes the labor for an alignment. I clean all the switches. I physically clean the radio. Do the best I can. It's nice when you have a radio like this. There's not a lot to clean. And if you choose to recap it, it also includes the recapping labor. And then whatever parts it needs, obviously that's extra. But yeah, that's what I do when somebody wants a full service. So that's what this radio is getting. It is getting a recap, and yeah, so that's basically it. So at first glance, I noticed the meters are stuck, which it's common if you don't really use the radio and you use it, you put it away for several years. It's very common to happen. They're not dead, so I can actually, when I key up, I can see them moving just ever so slightly. So that tells me that the meters are at least working. So we'll get those freed up. I'm pretty confident you can get these meters freed up without getting new ones. It's nice to keep everything as original as possible. Some of the controls are a little scratchy. I noticed the mode. You guys can hear that. You're never gonna, get those to 100%, especially with the volume up. You're gonna hear a little bit of a transition between modes, but it is scratchy. So we'll get that cleaned up. I use the deoxit, and I also use the deoxit fader. Helps lubricate the switches. But anyway, yeah, that's basically it for this radio, as far as at first glance. what else can we do? I guess we can do a, I got a regular stock mic hooked up to it. I don't have that CA 72 mic hooked up to it, but let's see what she's doing for power. So yeah, we got a dead key of 4 watts. That's normal. Audio. All right, we're hitting like right about 15 watts PEP, so that's about normal. We're on AM. Yeah, let's do a sideband test. We'll do lower sideband. All right, carrier suppression is great. Yeah, so you don't want, obviously, as a carrier on sideband. Let's check out upper sideband. Yeah, so the carrier suppression is set up proper on this. I mean, it's part of the alignment anyway, but it's nice to know that the radio isn't too far off. All right, so we're back on lower sideband. Audio. All right, so we're around 15. This is upper sideband. Yeah, 15. All right, 15 AM, 15 sideband. Peak. That's peak. All right, so why don't we do a sensitivity test and see how she's doing with the sensitivity. Obviously, we can't get an S9. We can't see if it's properly aligned for an S9 signal because this thing's stuck. But we can do a sensitivity test, see what she's doing. This voice lock is centered. It's got the detent on the course. You see we're a little off. Yeah, it's a little off, but get that fixed, no problem. Let's see if she's actually transmitting on, yeah, because this voice lock isn't unlocked. Let's see. Yeah, I'd say she's on frequency. 27185. Yeah. So we'll get that. We'll get this completely aligned and working properly. All right, let me get the signal generator hooked up to it and see what she's doing for Synad. All right, it's on the signal generator, and Synad is hooked up. Let's see what we're doing for sensitivity here. Right about average. So we got minus, what was that, 110, 11, 12, minus 112 dBm at 12 dB of Synad. So right on par, a little bit better, a couple dB better than what's expected. But yeah, and we have an unmolested radio here, and which is good. So this can be just a straightforward recap and alignment. The frequency counter module will go over, I'll go over some of the solder joints on there because they can be problematic. But that's really about the only issue with these radios, is that frequency counter. Some of the soldering can be a little sketchy, but other than that, this radio is in really good shape. So yeah, we'll clean out all the dust out of it. I mean, this is just typical dust that, you know, shows up through the vents. And yeah, you can see that it's all original. So that's about it. All right, so I'm in the middle of recapping this Cobra 2000 GTL, and I decided to start with the frequency counter module. And what I wanted to point out is you have to have a lot of patience when recapping anything that's double-sided like this. So this is a double-sided board. You can see that it has traces on the top, and then obviously traces in the back. With the old solder, even with the desoldering gun, it can be challenging, especially with the old solder. Because what happens is when you look at that capacitor, I don't know if you can really tell there, but on that leg, there's just a blob of solder on the top side of that board, and it's tough sometimes with the old solder to get rid of it all. And the last thing you want to do is stop pulling traces out because you're not completely removing all the solder. So sometimes you have to, if you're lucky, it'll come out with the desoldering gun, but sometimes you have to go back, put some fresh solder back on after you suck out. You can see right here, it just didn't want to completely suck out the solder. So what I'm going to do is, after I suck out as much as I can with the gun, I'm going to go back and put some fresh solder on here, and then hopefully, I should be able to suck out all that old solder as well. But if the capacitor does not come out, you shouldn't force it, or you shouldn't hold the desoldering gun too long on the area here, because you can end up pulling a trace up. So try it. If it doesn't work, put some more fresh solder on it. Try it again. Eventually it will come out. You just need a lot of patience with these dual-sided boards. And of course, this being a Cobra 2000 GTL or anything rare, the last thing you want to do is mess up something that's irreplaceable, So, just some words of advice. Yeah, just lots and lots and lots of patience. I mean, when you look at it, it's not, in this particular radio, this isn't too bad. What do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 9 capacitors to do. So just take your time. They're not all going to be as difficult. Yeah, just some patience. Figured I'd just share that with you guys. Thanks. Alright guys, so the frequency counter is recapped. I haven't done any alignment yet. I still have to recap the rest of the radio. But yeah, I just took my time. You're better off taking your time, trying 2-3 times if you have to get the cap out without pulling any traces out, because on these double-sided boards it is really easy to pull or yank a trace out, so if the capacitor isn't wiggling properly, if you're struggling to pull it out, then something's wrong. So but anyway, yeah, I took my time, did it right. It's not a lot of caps, but again, a little patience. But yeah, that's it for the frequency counter now. So I'm gonna get that bolted back in. It's just loose in there, so I'll get that 4 screws back in there, and then I'll move forward with recapping the rest of the radio. Yeah, when I get a Cobra 2000 GTL, and I always start with the frequency counter. Just take it right out of the there's 2 and 2 screws on the back side. Just pop that out. I leave the board inside of the case. I don't actually pull out the board. There's no reason to. On the bottom of this RF case, this shield, there's another cover that you can pop right off to, and it gives you access to the back side of this frequency counter module. So real easy to do. All right, let me get back to the recapping the rest of this radio. All right, so you get to the filter cap, and it's pretty well known that the caps of today are smaller in size than their older counterparts, right? So you come across a capacitor that's supposed to fit in there, and it just doesn't fit physically. It's too small. You can go about this a few different ways. You can kind of put some heat shrink tubing around the capacitor or something, a piece of rubber, act like a bushing. You can clamp on it that way. You can get a larger value cap, and whatever that value may be that fits in there, you can go that way too. Or, you know, you can do it like the ghetto way, right? And just, I don't know, stick this in there and, you know, maybe zip tie it or glue it, you know, you can go down that road. What I do is, if you're scared to use a knife, don't do this method. If you're scared of the oils, if you're scared of the capacitor, then don't do it this way. Do it however way you do it. But this is how I do it. I take the capacitor that fits in there. This fits in there. Okay. I cut the top off, shear it off with a knife, and it cuts easy with a brand new blade. You just cut the top off. This is what you get. This thing. Alright. That's what's inside that cap. Clean the inside of the cap very, very well. You don't want any remaining oil in there. Clean it out with some acetone or some whatever. It doesn't really matter. Just get it clean. Some alcohol, acetone, both, whatever. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hot glue this cap inside of there. Now, what I'm going to end up doing is putting a piece of foam on the bottom of this because it's just slightly too small. And then I'm going to glue all around this. And it's kind of going to look like it's kind of like a original cap. And you don't have the problems of it falling out of the clamp. And it looks original. Alright, let me get that done. Alright, so this is what it looks like. Alright. And now that fits over that perfectly. And at first glance, it's going to look like it's the original capacitor. But obviously, it has same value cap inside of it. So that's it. Well, let me get it mounted. And that's it for this. I already finished recapping the whole radio. So this is the last thing that needs to be done. So let me get that soldered together and bolted back on. Alright, so that's how it looks completed. A little heat shrink tubing around the connectors there, and that's about it. It's good to go. Alright, looking pretty good. And like I stated before, the rest of the radio is done. Everything's all recapped. All Nichicon caps except for one here, one value that I did not have in a Nichicon, but I had in another brand name cap. But other than that, every single other one is Nichicon. And yeah, that's it for the recap. So everything came out okay. And we're going to just move on now. So next step is to get this thing aligned. And that's pretty much it for the radio. Yeah, and then once I get it aligned, we can actually do some more testing. Get the mic plugged back into this radio and see how that's doing. And yeah, that's about it for now. So Recapping's done. Let's move on.